It's knowing that your door is always open and your path is free to walk. It makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. It's knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and laws and the ink stains that are dried upon some line. That keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. That keeps you ever gentle on my mind. It's not clinging to the rocks and ivy painted on their columns now that bind me. Or something that somebody said because they thought we'd fit together walking. It's not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk around the railroad track and find that you're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and hours you're just gentle on my mind. Though the wheat fields and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways come between us, and some other woman's crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone, I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, and the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I dip my cup of soup back from a gurgling, crackling cauldron in some train yard. My beard, a rustling towel, and a dirty hat pulled low across my face. Through cup hands round the tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waiting from the back roads by the rivers of my memories, ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind. And a wonderful Friday evening, everybody. Soon to be Saturday, and we're grateful to have everybody back here with us. This will be our final McFiles broadcast for a while. We're going to be taking a week off to have a Faith Week over on our Faith channel. It is Passover starting tomorrow night. We want to wish all of our Jewish friends and our family a very, very happy Passover. And we're going to have a wonderful week of faith starting really tomorrow night. We'll have our Saturday night gospel sing. Now, I say that, we're not going to be on the news side. If something majorly happens and we feel the need to come on, it'll be in the afternoon. And we will be on our K-Star Talk radio program. So if you want to listen to you won't be on video. You won't see the videos. You'll hear them. But we only have an hour over there. Chris takes longer than an hour to run his mouth. But we're grateful that you're with us. I have to admit, I've been a little tired this week. We took some rest today, and I was sort of dragging this afternoon on the radio show. If you all listened, I apologize for being a little dragging on there. It's just been a long week, and there's a lot of sickness going around, and but we're hoping to recharge next week, and we got some great guests coming when I get back. Dr. Stephen Smith's coming back, Judge Sherilyn Allen's coming back, Ricky Wilson will be back with us, Brad Johnson, Eric Kieran, all the regular McFiles gang, and somebody sent us a message on Facebook, when has Ricky been on this month? She hasn't been yet. She will be. She usually comes on our third week or so and all. But we are just so grateful to have you tonight, and we hope that you are having a great week or have had a great week. And if you haven't had a great week, we're sorry about that, but it'll get better. It's good to see Annie Jensen from the Philippines, and Bear, it's one of my favorite songs too. I like it. Good to see everybody in the house, and we're getting a crowd coming in, and we hope that you all are having a good night. Shar from Florida, good to see you. Stephen, Miss McDonald, Mrs. McDonald's in the house, and good to see her as long as she can be up with us tonight. We're grateful for everybody, and over on our Facebook side, let's see here who we got hanging out with us tonight. We've got a decent crowd coming in. And sometimes these late night shows, we get more people at late night than we do even in the day. Good to see Pat and Deb Dolan, Joan Mertz, Lane Willards in the house. And Pat says she's solo, Pat is, he's solo, I'm sorry. But good to see everybody. Tim Neal's in the house, and so forth. Bear, I recorded that song with my dear buddy Eddie Cole. We recorded that about 2 years ago, and it's one of my favorite songs by Glenn Campbell, the late Glenn Campbell. And I'm certainly no Glenn Campbell, but I didn't think I did too bad a job on that. And we get more compliments on that song right there than we do any of them. And but we're gonna figure a way to put that up on our. Now I have to say, there are rumors. We played that song on the K-Star side, and I don't know if Angeline got death threats, but anyway, no, I didn't. I don't think she got death threats about that. But anyway, this is Friday Night Follies, but I got to talk about something serious before we get to the fun stuff tonight. Couple of big stories that are happening tonight. I want to deal with something we dealt with today on the radio show, and I don't know if you're aware of this. Some of you may be, some of you may not be. It's amazing the bloody history, and actually the third week of April. That has always been a very, very scary time for our country. And I mean, this goes way, way back. This is not just an isolated thing that's happened in the recent years, even though in the last recent years we've had. I want to just go over some events that have occurred this month in our nation's history and in the world. And it really goes back to 1865, and it was basically I had this list here. Hang on just a second. Well, I guess it's not going to show me that now. Of course not. When I need it to show it, but a couple of things that I know that. Let me see here. Just give me 1 minute here. I had it saved here. And we've had it started. Give me 1 minute. I had this. We had a interactive program to show you. We may have to do this when we get back off the break and come back to and that's the same one. Well, I'll just goodness gracious. Lord have mercy. Anyway, April has been a very bad month. April of 1865, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And hang on just a second. Maybe we downloaded this. Give me 1 minute. Let me get my Word document up. I had this downloaded, and I was going to try to bring it on here tonight. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Bear with me 1 second. It is late night, and but we've had some of the worst mass shootings. We've had some of the most egregious terrorist attacks. We've had some of the most major riots that we have ever seen. Let's see. Here we go. April the 19th of 1995, we had the Oklahoma City bombing that killed 168 people. April the 19th of 1993, almost 2 years to the day, the Waco siege ended with a fire at the Branch Davidians, and several dozen people got killed. It was April the 4th of 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and it really set the country back with this race situation for many, many decades. It's really never ceased since that day. And Martin Luther King had basically advocated for a peaceful reconciliation between whites and blacks, but his message to the black community was, you're not going to solve this by violence. You're going to solve it by love and unification. And that message has been lost since 1968, but he got assassinated in April. It was also in April the 20th of 1999. 2 students went through a rampage at the Columbine High School where they killed 13 people and wounded over 20 others. It was the deadliest school shooting in U.S. history at the time. Again, I mentioned April the 4th of 1968 with the assassination of Martin Luther King. It was also April the 14th in 1865 that we had the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, I feel like one of our greatest presidents, considering what Lincoln had to deal with. April the 15th of 2013, we had the Boston Marathon bombing. We're about 12 years after that. We had about 3 people that were killed in that, but it was probably about 500 that were actually killed injured, I should say, injured. April the 14th, I mentioned 1865, Abraham Lincoln. He led the country. He was just shot 4 days after the Confederacy surrendered. He was murdered at Ford Theater. And we mentioned April the 20th of 1999. The interesting thing about that date is April the 20th of 1889, a madman by the name of Adolf Hitler was born. And he would go on to be one of the worst dictators of all time, responsible for the death of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. His death would be April the 30th of 1945. And these kids that did this horrible attack on April the 20th, 100 years to the day of his birth, some of the memoirs and some of the material that the FBI recovered from these 2 killers basically indicated that they planned that day. They had been planning this for a while, but they planned it to coincide with Adolf Hitler's birthday. And of course, he died in a bunker in April of that, the month of April. He died in 1945. Now, there are some rumors that these files that are being basically revealed and so forth indicate that he may perhaps have escaped Argentina and died down there. We don't know. I guess you'll have to just make that call yourself whether you want to believe that. I tend to believe he died in that bunker, but I guess only God knows. But he's not alive today. That's all that matters. I know where he's at. I know where his soul's at, but whether he died in Argentina or died in Germany ultimately don't matter to me. He was the most despicable dictator, and the leader in Europe stood by and watched him do what he did. America stood by and watched what he did to the Jews and did very little to help. And then, folks, we came within an eyelash of fascism at that day, at least, taken over this entire world, had not it been, if the Japanese would not have attacked America in Pearl Harbor, it's very possible that America would have never entered into this conflict and let Hitler do what he wanted to do. But when the Japanese attacked us on Pearl Harbor in December of 1942, it changed, or 41, it changed the complex of the war. And the Wannsee Conference, I mentioned that, took place around this time of the year in 1942, where the Germans basically built the planned the final solution, which ultimately was the destruction of the Jews by gas chambers. Another event that occurred that you may not remember, but it sticks very heavily in my mind. I never will forget this. It was April the 16th of 2007. There was a Virginia Tech shooting that killed 12 people and hurt 17 others. It was a Chinese national in two separate attacks. The gunman turned the gun on himself, and he went on to became the bloodiest school shooting in history. And again, that's just some of the events. There's a couple of others. The 1906 earthquake that took place in San Francisco took place in April. And it was an unbelievable event, killed thousands of people, and that became the costliest natural disaster, the costliest earthquake, to be frank with you, up into that day. And it just seems, for whatever reason, this time of our history has always been, or this month has been, a time that we have seen great things take place in our country, and not good things at all whatsoever. And that's just some dates to remember. But the San Francisco earthquake, we had Ruby Ridge take place in April. We had the BP oil disaster that became the greatest environmental disaster up to that time in April of 2010. That was during the Obama years. We had the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. And let's see here, I'm going to get that date. That took place, 3,000 people died, over 80% of the city of San Francisco was destroyed. April the 18th at 5:12 in the morning, a magnitude 7.9 earthquake caused widespread destruction and very, very terrible things that took place. So April has been a very really bad month for America and our history. And again, we had the Virginia Tech shooting. You think about it, folks. We had the Columbine shooting. We've had the Titanic sank. April the 14th of 1912, there were 115 Americans on board. The Titanic sank this month. The Deepwater Horizon disaster happened April the 20th of 2010. Very, very weird connection to this month. April the 11th, speaking of weather, we had the Palm Sunday tornado outbreak, killed 271 people. In fact, that took place basically in 1965. This is 2025, so that is, 60 years today. We had the Palm Sunday, which is, again, one of the worst tornado outbreaks. The Civil War of our country began April the 12th of 1861. The Confederate forces opened fire on Fort Sumter in South Carolina in 1861. April 12th is tomorrow. President Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, died April the 12th of 1945. In April 13th of 2014, there were two shootings at the Jewish Community Center in Greater Kansas City in Overland Park, Kansas. And the Titanic again sank April the 14th. Lincoln was assassinated, and I've already mentioned some of these. April the 15th, in more recent years, April the 15th of 2019, Notre Dame went up in smoke, and a massive fire took place there. And April the 17th of 2013, the West Texas fertilizer plant killed 15 people in West Texas. I mentioned the April the 18th San Francisco earthquake. You had the Branch Davidian situation, April the 19th in Waco. David Koresh. It all ended on the 19th after a 51-day siege, and basically about 80 people, 24 children, and the leader was killed in that event in Oklahoma City. And then, of course, we had the Columbine High School tragedy. And I will say this on the weather: April the 27th and 28th of 2011, we had a once-in-a-lifetime both super outbreaks. We had one in April 3rd and 4th of 1974. We had April the 27th and 28th of 2011. They were about 40 years apart, and nearly 750 people died during the outbreak of 2011. At least were injured. I know we had about at least 300 to 400 people that got killed over 5 states: Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, mainly Tennessee too. We had some deaths here in Tennessee. Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, and then the storm went into the Carolinas. Florida didn't see that many deaths. It was really north of there. It was really in the Tennessee Valley and the Ohio Valley that most of the damage occurred. But that day was unbelievable. I remember that day well. I remember the first super outbreak well. I was a lot younger. I was a small kid in Atlanta, Georgia. And but all these events are tied together to this month. Now, I want to just give you a few thoughts about that, and we'll get your thoughts on it later. I believe that this is how that what I believe why it's like this. This is the month, for the most part, that we celebrate Easter. This is the most of the time. Passover usually occurs in April of the year. There are a few years, probably 1 out of 10, that Easter will take place at the end of March. But it's usually around this time of the year, in that third week of April, that Easter is when we celebrate the Lord's resurrection. Passover, which will begin at midnight tomorrow night, is the celebration or the commemoration of Israel becoming a nation for the first time. Jacob and his sons went into Egypt. They came out as a nation. And that's what Passover commemorates. And I firmly believe that when the world at large, when you look at all of these events, there was death, there was carnage, destruction, injury. The nation was shaken to the core by many of these events. The Oklahoma City bombing shook us to the core. Waco shook us to the core. Boston Marathon bombing shook us to the core. The Civil War, folks, basically destroyed our country within it. It was a war that's the only time that we fought each other. This was unreal what happened to this nation, in 1861. Lincoln being assassinated in 1865. Martin Luther King being assassinated in 1968. And the Branch Davidians, of course, and the earthquake of 1906. 3,000 people being killed in an earthquake is unreal. It became the costliest earthquake up to that time. And we had not seen such carnage. And I just think that Satan is the one that comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And to destroy. And that is exactly what these events did in all cases. Satan is the prince and the power of the air. God controls this world. I do not give Satan any credit to the fact that he can overrule God. He cannot. But because of man's rebellion and man's sin, we have outsourced the rulership of this earth to Satan. He controls men. He controls the people that perpetrated these acts. This hideous killer at Virginia Tech, these hideous 2 boys in Columbine in Colorado. Timothy McVeigh, who was basically executed, put to death, I think, about 8 years ago for his part in the Oklahoma City bombing. And many children died in that bombing. And it was, again, really eerily 2 years to the day. And you start looking at these dates, And it is just insane how that they all correspond. And then you look back at world history and you see the Titanic sinking this month. You see Hitler being born this month and dying this month. And it's just, evil has always had its greatest heyday in the month of April in America. Is there going to will there be something that happens, this coming week or two? I don't know. There's no way to predict that. But it is something for thought that we have seen the bloodiest times of our nation during this fourth month of the year that coincides with the resurrection of Jesus. I believe it's an affront by Satan to him. I think that Satan stirs up the spirit realm, and the evil that is stirred up is greater during this month than any other time. And that's just some food for thought on this Friday night, and we're about to be into Saturday here. Okay, good to see everybody. Are you grateful you're with us on a Friday night? If you are, put some fire in that house. And we've already up to 152 folks. Hey, we're grateful you're here. We normally don't come on this late on Friday night. We try to do this earlier. I've been getting ready for this. We've had, we'll take your comments on the April thing here in a minute. We're not going to keep you too far past midnight tonight because I want you to get some rest this weekend. We will be on tomorrow night for our Saturday night gospel sing. We ain't had one of those in a while. I'm looking forward to that. So be with us for that over our face side. But interesting stuff. Now, we have got a ton of video to download for you tonight, and we've also got some very intriguing things to share with you as far as Israel goes. Let me see if I can download a couple of these things here. It's hard to see some of this stuff, but give me 1 second here. I'm asked sometimes why I do what I do, and this is why I do what I do. I'll just start it right here. I would rather worry or rather offend you with the truth than to consider what happens, that you be misled, deceived, and destroyed if I don't. And I think that's a wise statement tonight. We try our best to tell the truth on this network, and I feel like we do. We don't get things right all the time because this is an opinion show, and our opinions are opinions. And when we feel like it's an opinion, we tell you it's our opinion. If we feel like it to be certain, we'll tell you that too. We've never been arrogant to the point that we believe that we get everything right. We don't. But at least we're humble enough to admit it. There are many out there that don't. And people mock us and say all sorts of vile things, behind the scenes, and laugh, and that's fine. We've survived 7.5 years of all that. But the driving force, folks, is that, I told Angeline Marie today, it's an exhausting job. It's an exhausting ministry, what we're doing here. I mean, we give everything out that we can give every night, every week. And we get to the end of the week sometimes, and we're running on fumes, and it just seems like, I'll sit back and I'll say, maybe I need to take a night off, and then this driving thing inside of me says, you need to get on that platform and talk about what's going on, because people need to know what's happening. People need to be aware of this. They need to be aware of what's going on in the country. You need to encourage folks, and it drives me because this is a labor of love. And I think that, as we said last night, the left and the people that want to destroy the country, and the people that have committed themselves for the destruction of this nation, and committed themselves to anarchy and chaos, and these 50501 groups, and these hands-off groups, and Black Lives Matter, and the Democrat Party that needs to be outlawed, that are actually out there complaining tonight about voter ID laws and lying to their teeth, scaring women, scaring blacks, scaring everybody that this is going to disenfranchise you from voting. And it's a spirit, folks. It's just a spirit. So there has to be voices that are willing to counteract that. And that's what we've taken on the responsibility of doing. And I never dreamed when I first started this that, you know, the network would survive this long. I didn't know where I was going in 2018 when we first started this. I had no idea that we would still be around 7 years later doing this. It's only been by the grace of God. We have seen some physical battles. We have seen some spiritual battles. We have seen some emotional battles. We've seen betrayal. We've had people leave in disgust and do some ugly, ugly things and not be justified in doing what they did and never caring the result and the damage and the destruction that they left in their wake. Never cared, never had any kind of remorse about it, still don't. And, you know, we've had to pick the pieces up. We've lost audiences before. We've dealt with financial loss. We've dealt with audience loss. We've dealt with physical loss. I almost died in 21. And it just seems like every time that we've come to this crossroads, and, you know, I'm human just like all the rest of you, and the devil whispers in my ear, it would be a lot easier for you if you didn't have to put yourself through this every week. But then I realized that this is not a job. This is a calling. And this is a ministry. It's a little different ministry than, it's not in a church, in a building. But what we do on both sides of this network, on the face side and on the news side, is a ministry. It's an outreach. And we have been grateful to the Lord that He has seen us through. You know, I look at all those events that have taken place in this country in April, and it's just, you know, you look back in history and you just have a hard time believing that our nation would experience such carnage and such evil in one single month, but we have. And we've survived all of that. Our nation has survived it, and we've got a chance, folks. We really are sitting at a precipice. We've got a chance to get some of this stuff corrected and get some of this stuff dealt with. And, you know, we can turn the corner on some things and close the books. That's why a lot of this, you know, these files being opened up, and the JFK files being opened up, and RFK files being opened up, and the Epstein list being opened up, and the Hurricane Crossfire Hurricane files being opened up. John Solomon was basically saying things tonight that, you know, we're going to find out a lot about Hillary's role in this, which we've already known that, but it's just the media has hid it. The media has denied it. She's denied it, but to see it now in paper, to see it in actual form. Hang on just a second. My camera don't want. There we go. When you focus, don't jump. Probably is better off blurred. But we've got a chance. We've got a chance on this Passover season to see a deliverance of our nation from this power over it. I don't know if it's ever going to get fixed totally. I don't believe it will. I know that what's coming to America is going to determine a lot by the people. And there's a lot of rebellion, folks, and there's a lot of anarchy, and there's a lot of uprising, and a lot of unrest, and a lot of delusion and destruction and deception. The same elements that have led to all of these tragic events in April throughout the history of our country, they're still there. They're still there. There's still killers. There's still people that are wanting to see the end of this nation. There's a lot of people wanting to see the end of Israel. You think about the Passover as we celebrate Passover tomorrow night and start to begin this week of celebration and commemoration of what took place in Egypt. And Israel's come out as a nation. Israel is still, to this night, under great duress and under great turmoil because of her enemies. And America is really her only friend right now that is trying to buffer some of that. And with President Trump in office, I mean, he's basically told Bibi Netanyahu, whatever you decide to do with Iran, we've got your play. And they've not had that for years past. And then you see these anti-Semitic remarks coming from church people and pastors and evangelists and prophets and people that you would think that would have some kind of common sense to them not to believe the stuff they believe. And it is discouraging. It is very hard to believe. And I'll just read you something that Bibi Netanyahu posted to Canadian Prime Minister. In fact, I've got it right here. If you'll give me 1 second, I'll download it. He had something to say today to Canada, and let's see here. Where is that? And if I can't find it, I'll just read it. How about that? And I can't find it. It's not been coming. Whenever I save something on the phone, it takes it a while to download. But I'll just read this to you. It says, Canada has always sided with civilization. So should Mr. Carney. But instead of supporting Israel, a democracy that is fighting a just war with just means against the barbarians of Hamas, he attacks the one and only Jewish state. Mr. Carney, backtrack. You're irresponsible. And there's been some anti-Semitic remarks coming from other nations. Macron has basically come out and said some ugly things. Drew Pavlou, he posted this tonight on X, and he says that the lawyer representing Hamas in Britain has tweets mocking Jewish hostages that were raped by Hamas fighters. Somebody explain to me why this guy should not be stripped of his law license. I don't have an answer why he shouldn't. But the world at large don't care about the mockings. And then we do have some good news tonight, and I want to talk about this right here. And give me a minute, and I will pull this story up, and then we're going to try to let's see here. Where is that story about Khalil? They have basically, the judge that the left went to try to get Muhammad Khalil stayed in the country. The judge ruled that he can be deported. Now, on a bad note tonight, I've got to pull this up. This is, again, more lawfare. And this is, again, why we need somebody to step in and stop this madness. But you've got an Obama judge. I'm going to come over here to the Newswire. She has blocked the deportation of over 500,000 illegal migrants that are in this country tonight. And here's the story. I promise you we're going to get to a few lighter things here in a minute. But in the latest act of immigration-related lawfare, a federal judge has blocked the deportation of hundreds of thousands of Cuban, Haitian, Nicaraguan, and Venezuelan migrants with temporary protected status after it was revoked. The Trump administration removed the legal status of more than 500,000 migrants that entered the U.S. through a Biden administration parole program, with the Department of Homeland Security warning impacted migrants that they have 30 days to self-deport before law enforcement goes searching for them. The DHS has determined a 30-day wind-down period provides affected parties sufficient notice while also preserving DHS's ability to enforce the law promptly against those parolees lacking a lawful basis to remain in the United States. Well, this Obama-appointed U.S. District Judge Indiri Talwani, probably not even an American herself, in the District of Massachusetts, go figure, ruled yesterday she would issue a stay on the order, which was set to cancel the TPS for approximately 532,000 migrants on April the 24th. She says the nub of the problem here is that the Secretary, in cutting short the parole period afforded these individuals, has to have a reasoned decision, arguing the justification was based on incorrect reading of the law. Stephen Miller responded to this. These are the illegals that the Biden camp flew by airplane en masse into the United States, including the Haitian migrants now occupying Springfield. Biden gave these illegals free housing, health care, and welfare. Now, a local judge says they have to stay here forever. No, and they don't. Talawani also happens to be the judge. Now, to tell you how messed up our justice system is, who ruled in June of 23 that a 12-year-old Massachusetts boy could not wear a shirt, stating there are only two genders to school, concluding that it infringed on other students' rights to be secure and to be let alone during the school day. So that should tell you what kind of judge we are dealing with. By the way, I want to come back over here and play you something. This is a Washington congressman, Dana Perino, played this on her show either yesterday or today, and this is unreal for him to say such about parents' rights, and it has to do with whether parents should be told about abortions and so forth. And if you'll give me 1 second, I'll find it right here. I'm looking for it. We downloaded so many videos. We got so much to talk about tonight. But let me see here if I can find it. I do have this one. I want you to listen to Gavin Newsom. I want you to listen to Gavin Newsom out of his own mouth tell Bill Maher that he don't believe that a parent has a right to tell or the school doesn't have a right to tell parents if their child wants to change their gender. We've had January Smith Littlejohn on here for several times, but this is Gavin Ian letting you know how he feels about all this. Roll tape.
I see today the Trump administration, they talked about the fact that California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what? That's the party without common sense. Now, if that's your state, how are you?
I just disagree with that. I mean, the law was you would be fired. A teacher would be fired if a teacher did not report or snitch on a kid talking about their gender identity. I just think that was wrong. I think teachers should teach. I don't think they should be required to turn in kids. And by the way,
we're talking about their parents. How can you snitch? The idea of a snitch and a parent to me doesn't compute.
Well, I don't. But what is the job of a teacher? It's to teach. If Johnny's talking about some identity issue or some issue about liking someone of the same sex, is the teacher's job.
F-bomb comment. He's an evil snake motherfucker. I don't know how to describe it. You see what he just did there, and Bill got it right.
Hang on just a second, then we'll play the other guy's comments. But did you hear what he said and what got me? The very argument that Gavin Newsom's making, they says that a teacher needs to teach, okay? Well, let me give Mr. Newsom a little news flash. The teachers ain't teaching. You know, the teachers are telling these kids, it's okay for you to change your gender and not go home and tell your mom and daddy. And we're not going to tell your mom and daddy, and you can do this. It's exactly what happened to January Smith Littlejohn, folks, in Tallahassee, Florida, Leon County High School, and a very conservative part of the country, to be frank with you, but that Leon County area is as blue as can be, and that's where I grew up. I mean, I grew up about 30 miles north of there. Wasn't from there originally, but I grew up most of my teen life in South Georgia, and she has fought and lost in courts because they did the exact same thing to her daughter. They told her daughter it was okay for her to change genders and did not tell the Littlejohns. And when the Littlejohns confronted the school board about it, they backed down, they doubled down, and basically said, blank you. It's none of your business. We told the kid it was all right. And Newsom is I mean, you can't have it both ways. He's double talking out of his mouth. Well, the teacher needs to teach and not snitch on a kid. And Bill Maher, as liberal as Bill is, I mean, this is crazy. This is Bill Maher's most liberal comedian out there. He's no fan of Trump, even though he went to Trump's White House. I mean, he had some decent things to say about Trump, but he went on The View and sort of told Joe Behar it's okay to hate Trump and love him at the same time, and that's how Bill looks at him. He hates him and he loves him at the same time. I wouldn't say he loved him, but he's telling Newsom, you're talking about their parents. What is it that is snitching about telling the parents what your child... And I wished I thought I downloaded this video because there was a Washington representative that basically told on camera, he said that he does not believe that the parents have a right to know what their children are doing, and the schools have a right to hide from the parents if a child wants an abortion, and if they are changing their gender. And he goes, basically what he says is absolutely hideous. And when he says something to the effect, he says that if a girl is young enough or old enough to have sex and get pregnant, then she's old enough to know what she's doing with her own body. The person asked, I'll get this video when we get back after break next week, and he basically was asked, well, what about if she gets pregnant? He says, well, if she's old enough to get pregnant, then that pregnancy, even if she's 13, they ask about the age thing, because we weren't talking about adults here. He's talking about kids in school, just like Newsom was, 12, 13, 11, and he said they don't have to tell their parents, and the school board does not have to tell their parents about that. And if they go get an abortion and the school knows about it, they do not need to tell their parents. They don't have a right to tell their parents. That's the school's decision. Folks, that's freaking 1984 George Orwell government takeover of your kids. And Alice Linehan was on this program just last week warning us this is coming, and it's already happening. But that's Mr. Newsom's view of that. And you California folks, that's your governor. That's your governor. Interesting stuff. Here it is right here. I'm sorry, right in front of me. It was staring right in front of me. I do that. When I'm looking for something, I jump right over it. Listen to this. Watch
and
this.
Here's State Senator Jamie Peterson. This is just incredible. Listen here.
Kids over 13 have the complete right to make their own decisions about their mental health care. Parents don't have a right to have notice. They don't have a right to have consent about that.
Is that really what they think?
Young women have, if they're old enough to get pregnant, they're old enough to make their own decisions about what happens with their bodies, okay? And parents do not have the right to change that or make a different decision or be notified in advance.
All right, let me ask you all that question. Do you believe what this jackanapes says, that if they're old enough, then they are old enough to make a decision on their own body? I've got a feeling if I was to put this question to this audience, most of you, and by the way, folks, don't be putting paragraphs and bringing that anti-Semitic stuff into my network tonight. That will be a quick way to say adios, amigo. We don't tolerate anti-Jewish talk here. We're not anti-Semitic on this network. You need to carry that somewhere to your favorite prophet network or telegram room, not here, okay? But this guy here, this is a state senator in Washington. I've got to play that again, folks. I had to listen to it 2 or 3 times to say, is this what he's really saying? I got to play it for you
and
again.
Here's State Senator Jamie Peterson. This is just incredible. Listen here.
Kids over 13 have the complete right to make their own decisions about their mental health care.
All right. Does a 13-year-old have a right to make their own decision about their mental health care? Curious. Anybody believe that? Anybody believe that? If you do, give me thumbs up. If you don't, put thumbs down. But this is a state senator saying they've got 13-year-olds have the ability to do that.
Parents don't have a right to have notice.
Parents don't have a right to have notice. He's saying the same thing that Gavin Newsom was telling Bill Maher. He said, well, no, we don't want the teachers to be a bunch of snitches. We just want them to teach. Well, Gavin, let me give you a little news flash, bro. We want them to teach too, but they're not teaching. They're not teaching the kids how to read, write, or do anything else. They're teaching them about gender. And Char, your point is well taken. Your point is well taken. They shouldn't even be talking about this crap with kids. None of this should be in our school system. None of it.
They don't have a right to have consent about.
They don't have a right to have consent. Are you kidding me? The parents don't have a right to consent about their own child.
That.
Is that really what they think?
Young women have, if they're old enough to get pregnant, they're old enough to make their own decisions.
I'm just curious. How stupid and evil is that? So if they're old enough to get pregnant, then they're old enough to make their own decisions. That's your country tonight, folks. That's our country. And these are people that are leading it.
About what happens with their bodies.
What happens with their bodies. Wow. Isn't that just a virile winner of a human being that's leading the state of Washington? I bet you Washington folks are real proud of that one. That's why state elections matter, folks. That's why state elections matter. That's why state elections matter. Anyway. But that's going on. That is going on. Interesting. We'll pick your comments on that one a little bit later. Here is something that's... I love Caroline Leavitt, and I knew there was something about her that was different. And this is what it is. I want you to watch this. This was today, because she had this outfit on tonight on Hannity. Watch this.
Lord Jesus, please give us the strength, the knowledge, the ability to articulate our words, have fun, and be confident in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay.
How about that? That is why she can go out there with confidence and deal with the godless media. She prays every day, just like that. That's why I love Caroline Leavitt. That's why she gets it done right. By the way, this is Bill Maher talking to Matt Gaetz. I'll save that one for a minute. I want you to listen to Charlie Kirk here tonight. I'm getting a second wind here, so y'all might be with us here a while. But here's the story about Khalil. Here's Fox News.
The decision that we have been waiting for. A judge has just ruled that the Trump administration's effort to deport Mahmoud Khalil can move forward. Correspondent Brooke Taylor, live right near that courthouse in Juneau, Louisiana. Tell us what the judge is saying in there, Brooke.
Hi, Martha. Yeah, this has been long anticipated and some major news. Just to first give you some perspective, we're down the street from the ICE detention center. The courtroom is inside of there. They didn't allow any phones or cameras. So we're finding out this information from our reporter who's over there down the street. She tells us, as you just mentioned, the immigration judge has found Mahmoud Khalil removable. Khalil's attorneys have until April 23rd to file relief applications. I asked that reporter what the immigration judge was able to say. She cited those DHS papers and said that the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was able to meet that burden. And again, they have decided that Mahmoud Khalil is removable. The next question, Martha, of course, his attorneys are going to fight this, but how long that process is going to take right now for him to be deported.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye. It won't take them long. Adios, amigo. They got something right. Adios, amigo, dude. Let me tell you something. We got a story that we shared, and it's somewhere on here. But I don't know if you realize this or not, folks, but there are like nearly 200 on Columbia University's. Let me see if I got it here. I've got it on my phone here, and I'll just read it. Let's see here. Where is that at? There was a figure I wanted to give about Columbia. And basically, of all the students at Columbia, Columbia's got about 300,000 students that go to it, attend it. But 2/3 of Columbia students are here on visas and foreign visas that they come, student visas to come to go to school. And this is what all this Khalil brush-up was about. He was leading these anti-Jewish protests on the campus, and he basically was caught by ICE and Holman's Department of Homeland Security and the border czar, and he fought to be deported. They said, we're going to send you back. He didn't like it too much, and the courts, there was a standoff, and now the courts have ruled that the U.S. can kick his butt out. And this is another story that's related to that. Trump basically said goodbye to several, let's see here. Man, I need better glasses. This is the San Diego State University. That again, folks, is not Beirut. That's not Cairo, Egypt. That's not Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. That is not Tehran. That's San Diego, California. And President Trump tonight has revoked all student visas from those that were arrested in that protest. And it looks like they were getting a bus ready to put a bunch of them on the bus. Adios, amigo. You bring yourself over here to study school. But if you bring yourself over here on our dime and our visa and our invitation and you do that crap, I don't know who you think you are, you little punks. I don't know who these punks think they are. They do not have a right to do that in our country. And, you know, I don't know, folks, what these courts are going to ultimately decide on these illegals, but I tell you, it's infuriating to me. I was talking to somebody today about this due process, and there is such a debate right now whether the illegals have due process, whether they're allowed to have any rights under our Constitution, and to be frank with you, I don't believe they do. I mean, I just don't. And I'm trying to get the figure. I'll have that figure for you when we get back. But it was unreal the number of students that are over here in the United States with student visas from foreign countries in most of these universities, Columbia being the biggest. And they're taking advantage of our goodwill. And I think it's time we put our foot down. And hopefully this Khalil situation will be a start that we have got the freedom now to do what we need to do and kick their behinds back to their states. Alrighty. Let's see here. A couple of things. This is something you need to hear. This is about Israel and the Gaza situation. Such lying going on, such deception. I'm just saying, I got a cowboy hat on here, and I'm just going to tell these anti-Semites out there, you do not want to come into this show bringing that stuff here. I will tell you right now, I'm very calm about the chat. I've calmed down a lot about the chat. There's some things I don't like to see. I run a tight ship here. But anti-Semitism is one thing that will get your backside kicked out of here and never, ever allowed to come back. Ever. So let me just put that on the table tonight. But I want you to listen to this lady because she's basically telling us what the truth is about Gaza and what's not.
Have you seen what happened in Israel? Have you seen that people went into houses to find human beings, to bring them outside, to kidnap or kill the babies just because they are Jews? Do you remember history? Do you remember what happened on European soil? Do you want anything like that to happen again? Can anyone tell me how raping, mutilating, and kidnapping an innocent woman can improve the life of anyone? How was this supposed to be something good for the Palestinians? This was never about love for the Palestinians, but hatred for the Jews.
That is exactly right. Here's Charlie Kirk with some similar views. Somebody was trying to shout him down, and I love what he said about this. Roll the tape.
I am not an apologist for Israel, but I reject wholeheartedly its narrative. Christians who turn their back on Israel, it says in Genesis and Romans, 1 Thessalonians, Paul said, if you bless Israel, you will be blessed. If you scorn Israel, you will be scorned. The Israeli government, plenty of suspicious things going on. How do we know the Bible is true? Every day there are archaeological discoveries that confirm the truths of the Bible in 1 Samuel, in 1 Kings, in 1 Chronicles. There is a diabolical satanic agenda every single day to try and delegitimize the scriptures. And I will defend the Holy Land, the place that let me see where my Lord and Savior lived. And I will not apologize for that. Thank you very much.
Well said, Charlie. And by the way, folks, if we're not careful, this is coming to America
New
as
Jersey
well.
has the most Muslims per capita than any state in the nation. Approximately 300,000 to 500,000 Muslims live in our state. So it makes sense that so many districts are now closing for the Eid holiday. And now we're seeing approximately 30 districts across the state of New Jersey are closing in observance of Eid al-Fitr. So what's CARE New Jersey doing about this effort? In contribution to the local advocacy work that's happening on the ground, CARE New Jersey has penned an open letter that we've sent to nearly 50 districts across the state that don't already have Eid on their calendar, encouraging them to consider the Eid holiday in the upcoming academic calendar. We've also attended multiple Board of Education meetings to offer testimony in support of parents and students who are calling for the accommodation. We've also created a New Jersey Eid holiday map to track the progress of local advocacy work and to also encourage others to do the same. To inspire long-lasting change, our office has also launched the Muslim Youth Ambassador Program, which teaches high school students how to advocate.
They're doing that right in our own country, folks. That's in New Jersey. You New Jersey folks might need to beware that this is what they're pushing for. CARE is pushing for the school boards to honor the Islamic holidays. And it's the same school boards that are refusing kids to, same state where a kid wanted to just wear a shirt. It says there's two genders, and the judge in Massachusetts in the Northeast said that you can't wear that to school, kid, because it might offend some trans. And we're going to keep this mess up, and this is where we're going to be. It won't be just New Jersey, it'll be the whole country. Here's another Gaza, but this is a person that's telling the truth. She's a Syrian refugee. Roll the tape.
Are you outraged with the war in Gaza? So am I. My name is Rawan Osman. I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese. Since October 7th, I visited Israel 9 times, and I want to testify before God and you, Israel is not the problem. Last week, Israel buried Shiri Bibas with her children Ariel and Kfir. Hamas said they had been arrested. Forensic reports show they were choked to death in Gaza. But many who point fingers at Israel might do better to look in the mirror. I asked Qatar, why didn't you arrest the Hamas chiefs in Doha and demand release of the hostages? Why did you finance terror? And I asked Iran, why do you send billions to Hamas and Hezbollah instead of liberating your own people who are suffering oppression and poverty? Egypt, you charged thousands of dollars to escape the war. How can you lecture about the morality of displacing Gazans? Jordan, why have you refused to accept any Gazans? Are they not your own people? Lebanon, instead of discussing Hezbollah's political role, ban the party. Syria, if the new president is sincere about his transformation, I ask him to return the body of Eli Cohen. It's been 6 decades. Allow his wife to bury him before she dies. Hamas abuses their bodies. Be a better Arab. Be a better Muslim. Thank you.
They're not going to be a better Muslim. And they're not going to be a better Arab. The lady's plea is legitimate. It's sincere. You're dealing with a spirit, folks. You're dealing with a religion. You're not dealing with anything normal here. It's sweeping the country, folks. It's sweeping America. Here is the figure. I found the image. At Columbia University, there are 35, I said hundreds, wasn't hundreds, it was 35,978 enrolled students. Out of those, a whopping 20,321 are international students, meaning they're here by invitation, or they're coming from overseas into our students. American students at an American Ivy League university are the minority. And no wonder that Columbia has been turned into Jihad Central. But let me tell you why that statement's important. Folks, I read to you the other night the assimilation process and the conquering process of Islam. When they're the minority and they start creeping up. Before long, see, they're not, right now, there's more international students at Columbia than there are American students. That's why they can do the things they do and think they can get away with it. And eventually, it's not just going to be on our school campuses that we're going to see this stuff. It's going to be all over the country, and even in these small towns that we think that they're not going to come to, they're going to come to. Here is something out of Canada, so crazy. This is they're investigating this. And evidently that truck that was Al Jazeera. They were applauding the fact that Canada is investigating the owner of that truck, trying to take that truck away. Well, that's truth. That's truth. And that's why Benjamin Netanyahu said what he said to Carney tonight, because Canada is doing what other nations are doing, and Macron and other European nations, they are not being too kind to our ally in the Middle East.
We live in an alternate reality where evil has become good and wrong has become right, and Israeli self-defense has become aggression, and anti-Semitic terrorism has become resistance. And in that world of lies and blood libels and false narratives, the most important contribution that I can make as a member of Congress is not only my vote in the halls of Congress, but my voice in the public square. You know, the answer to the question of why I choose to speak out lies in Torah. There's a passage in Torah that appears as an inscription in the Liberty Bell. It reads, "Proclaim liberty throughout all lands unto all inhabitants." The deeper message is that none of us is free until all of us are free. I see my freedom as a black Latino from the Bronx as inextricably bound to the freedom of the Jewish people. I see the security of my own nation and home, the United States of America, as inextricably bound to the security of the Jewish homeland. And I'm here to affirm that I am pro-Israel, not despite my progressive values, but because of my progressive values. It is progressive to defend Israel's right to defend itself. It is progressive to demand the release of the hostages who must be brought home.
Very true. Very true. And well said. That's all I got to say to that is well said. Here is Mr. Mike Huckabee. He was named our ambassador to Israel yesterday, took the oath of office. There's Sarah Huckabee, who's doing an excellent job in Arkansas. Very proud of her, and very proud of Mike Huckabee as well. And our prayers for him as he tries to navigate the situation over there. A couple more videos, and then we're going to do some funny stuff. And I promise, I'm sort of woke up. I was a little tired coming on, but now I'm woke up. Y'all are in trouble. We've only got,
Sharia
so we
is
got
Islam,
some.
to be clear. There is no difference between Islam and Sharia. It's just a name. Democracy is the opposite of Sharia and Islam. We believe that Allah is the legislator. Allah makes the laws. He is the one who tells us what's allowed and what's forbidden.
I know some Muslims who think of themselves as Democrats and they say they're against Sharia. Are they real Muslims?
Yeah, it's really funny when I hear someone saying, yeah, I was speaking to a democratic Muslim. It's the same thing as saying I was speaking to a Christian Jew or to a Jewish Muslim or something like that. It's impossible. How could you meet a Jewish Muslim or a Christian Jew? And a Muslim that says he's against Sharia, he's not a Muslim. It's impossible.
Now, let me tell you what that's saying, folks. It's what I've been saying for months. What I've been saying for months. He confirms what I've been telling you. If you're a true Muslim in their world, because I do know some Christian Jews. I know some people that are Jewish that believe in Jesus. And I know some Christians in name only that don't believe in Jesus. I don't know why they call themselves a Christian, but they do. But what he's saying, I want you to understand the depth of what you just heard. If they are true Muslims, then they're going to believe in Sharia law. So the moderate Muslims, and I think that was Bill Bennett, the former health leader of our country many years back, good guy. He's saying, well, what about the people that says that they're Muslim but they don't believe in Sharia law? What he's basically saying there is the Muslims don't even view him as a true Muslim. If the Muslim world, folks, did what their book tells them to do, if they were to get the Quran down and read it — I've never read the Quran, I've just read snippets of it and read about it. I don't plan to read it, don't want to read it, don't care to read it. But I will tell you some things I've gleaned from what I do know about it. It is a call to jihad. It is a call to violence. It is an absolute denigration of Israel, a denigration of Jews, a denigration of Christians, a denigration of the West. Anybody that does not submit to its rule is an infidel. And what he is saying is confirmation of what I've been screaming on this network for months, really years, that if they actually started obeying that book, you would have a war on your hands in this nation, within the borders of this nation. This is the assimilation or the overtaking that is going on. He's just saying it verbally. He's just saying it verbally. He's confirming it. And democracy is the opposite of Islam. And did you hear what he said about Allah being the legislator? In other words, screw the government, screw the American government. You know, Sharia law, we don't care what the laws of your country tell us. Allah is our legislator. And Allah is not God. Let me make it abundantly clear tonight. Allah is not God. It's a false God. Muhammad is a false prophet. It's a pedophile, actually. I read a horrible story last night. A 9-year-old girl died here recently in an Arab land because she bled to death after the guy married her and did the biblical act of marriage. I'll just say it like that. Because of blood laws. That's their world. They ain't got no problem with that. And look, folks, I want to make it clear, we're not hating on Muslims tonight. It's not about hate. We don't hate Muslims. We love Muslims. I love the Muslim people. But that religion of Islam is evil. And those under its spell and under its control, the hatred that's in their heart is coming from a spiritual source. And that is why we are at danger in this country of this uprising. And when we see these protests on these campuses and we see this infiltration in cities, that San Diego State University thing, folks, that was just a few days ago. That looked like the streets of Beirut. That looks like the streets of Tehran, Iran. That's our nation. That's here in America. And this is what President Trump is coming up against. This is what our country's coming up against. This is what we're up against. And when you have these stupid judges like this lady up in Massachusetts that can't even let a kid wear a shirt that says there's two genders, which I need to tell her about the birds and the bees. There's not but two genders, because she's afraid it's going to offend some cuckoo over there in school that believes they're 16. You got a problem. He's telling you verbatim what their plan is. And, you know, we talked about the Sharia law situation in Texas, folks. It's happening. And, you know, Mike Huckabee, I have to say, is one of the things that he's going to be facing in his situation, because there are a lot of forces over in the Middle East that do not like him. And they know his view on Israel, and they're not too happy with Mike Huckabee. I am. I think Huckabee's going to do a good job. And I think you'll agree with that. Now, I've not gotten to a lot of things I want to tonight, like I never do, but I got to play you this from Ben Shapiro. President Trump chimed in on Huckabee today. This is funny. Roll the tape.
President Trump then made one of the better jokes of his presidency, actually. And that's saying a lot. He's a super funny guy. Here he was yesterday making a joke about Mike Huckabee's appointment.
And then we also have a transmittal letter to the president of Israel requesting that he accept Ambassador Huckabee's credentials.
He's going to be fantastic. He's going to bring home the bacon. Even though bacon isn't too big in Israel.
That's just the third letter.
I had to clear that up.
Only President Trump. Only President Trump. Ben Shapiro liked the joke. I like the joke. That's why we love President Trump. And I don't think the Jews took offense to that. I would think not. That was funny. That was good. Here's why I love my mayor, Glenn Jacobs, my dear buddy. I got a picture I should have posted that I took with him. He was at my son's graduation. His daughter and my son graduated, I think, the same year. And he was the speaker there, guest there at the graduation where my son graduated. This was him on Gutfeld the other night. And Tyrus was the host, guest host, and Glenn used to be in the World Wrestling Federation. He was the Undertaker. And I'll let this speak for itself. Roll the tape.
Frankly, right now, I'm more confused than a Joe Biden appointee trying to figure out what gender to put on their application. Hard. No, I'm serious. Is that a car commercial or is that the new lineup for The View? I don't know what to do. Here, take the seat. Give that man the seat. Whoa. Coming up.
That's Glenn Jacobs. Roll the tape again.
Right now, I'm more confused than a Joe Biden appointee trying to figure out what gender to put on their application. Hard. No, I'm serious. Is that a car commercial or is that the new lineup for The View? I don't know what to do.
I'm not sure either.
Give that man the seat. Whoa. Coming up.
That was a good one indeed. A couple of other things tonight. I've got to say this, and I've been meaning to talk about this. I'm going to address, as I said, next week, folks, we won't be on the news side. We'll be on the faith side of things. We may play the faith videos. We're actually going to have a week of revival starting Monday night. And it's needed for all of us. We need to be renewed in our faith, and we need to be renewed with music and some prayer and things of that nature. Our country will be there. We'll be on Facebook. We'll be on the McFiles Faith Network. If you're not subscribed to it, please do. You check your subscription on this network. There's a lot of people that are being deleted. They don't realize they're being deleted. And but we are excited about that. But when we get back, this situation out in Texas with this kid, it was a football player, and he was having a seating dispute with this black kid, and the black kid took a knife and stabbed him right in the heart. And the media is playing it up like the kid that did the stabbing is Beaver Cleaver, that he's just some misunderstood kid that he's not evil and he's not a criminal and he's being made out to be a criminal. Well, again, I'm just a South Georgia boy, and I would say that, no offense, but you stab a kid in the heart, I think that sort of makes you a criminal, makes you a murderer, does it not? Here's Tony Laren with some thoughts on that. I think this is the video. Roll the tape.
So, you've heard of the tragic death of teen football star Austin Metcalf. He was stabbed to death last week at a high school track meet in Frisco, Texas, allegedly over a seating dispute. He died in his twin brother's arms. Now, the teen who allegedly, though admittedly, stabbed him to death is Carmelo Anthony, a teen from another school who was allegedly asked to leave a tent or a seating area when the spat ensued. Now, first of all, I'd like you to take note of how the media covered this, because shockingly, in this case, the race of the alleged attacker and the race of the victim were left out. Weird. But even so, it didn't take long for this to become all about race, and not in the way you'd assume. Some internet experts are now deeming the Metcalf brothers to be the aggressors and even white supremacists, though there is no evidence to corroborate that. Interesting that Tariq chose those photos of the three teens, given the photos of Carmelo Anthony posted of himself prior to the incident. There's also been a GoFundMe established for Anthony, the accused killer. But internet trolls aside, the lawyer for Carmelo Anthony, as well as Anthony's father, are now claiming the whole thing can be chalked up to self-defense. Huh? No kidding. Hold up. I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened, but basic logic tells me stabbing another teen in the heart at a track meet in self-defense sounds like an incredible stretch, like a light year stretch. Even if the Metcalf twins wrongfully kicked Anthony out of a tent, even if they did it aggressively, that's a pretty big jump from that to stabbing in self-defense. Teens get into stupid and petty arguments all the time. At times, they can even get physical. But again, there's a pretty big jump from a teen spat to pulling out a knife and stabbing someone to death. And how the frick does anyone justify bringing a knife to a high school track meet? Like, oh, let me grab a water bottle, some chapstick, and my trusty knife just in case I need to fillet a classmate later. This is an insane and tragic situation, and I truly pray for everyone involved. But the internet spinning this into Carmelo Anthony being the true victim here is some really wild reality gymnastics.
And that's what they always do, folks. They did it with George Floyd. They've done it with others. And Anthony Carmelo's a criminal. And he stabbed a kid to death in the heart. That don't make him Ward Cleaver.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
First time tonight I get to play that. It's elementary. Elementary. I'm not a fan of Tony, but I thought she did a good explanation of that. Anyway, a couple of other things. Here's some funny ones for you to sort of make you lighten up the mood tonight. This is kids doing their impression of Donald Trump. You're going to like this. Roll the tape.
How do you think Trump has done in his first year in office?
Great.
What do you think he's done that's so great?
This is actually from his
To
first
save the
term.
world.
Can you do an impression of him?
It's gonna be great.
We are going to build a wall, and it will be huge.
I will build a wall. A big one.
China, China, China. Here's what it does.
Can you do an impression of the president for us?
You're fired.
Don't you just love kids? Don't you just love those kids? Don't you just love the kids? Put some fire in that house. Give them a hands up for that. This is for the ones out there that need to understand we live in such a messed up world. Here is the MASH report. Roll the tape.
A northerner has been accused of terrorising London by walking around saying hello. Generic northerner Stephen Malley left Londoners traumatised by his attempts to interact with them in a friendly, cheerful manner. Here's Nathan with more.
Malley arrived here at Oxford Circus at 9:32 this morning. He had already said hello to several people en route from King's Cross Station, leaving worried commuters unsure why a man they did not know was talking to them.
He made direct eye contact and then said, "Morning." First I thought, well, is this just a statement? Because I mean, it was the morning, but no, something in his tone suggested this was a greeting.
Malley was apprehended by London police, who were forced to let him go, as friendliness to strangers is not a crime until next year. Outside the station, Malley gave a statement.
Where I come from, it's okay to greet strangers or comment to them about the weather. I did not know the customs of London, and I apologise if I offended anyone. I did not mean to be happy.
That's about the truth of it.
And Nathan, what should Londoners do if approached by a northerner?
Headphones on, head down, and avoid eye contact. They are generally friendly, but they will headbutt if cornered.
Alrighty. I thought that was pretty funny. That's about the truth of it. That's where our world's gotten to, folks. You can't say hello to people without it being considered evil. Here's another good one.
Being oppressed. I saw it on CNN. A white lady said it. Nobody knows black struggle like white women. And I thought I was having a good life until I got basic cable.
Thought I was having a good life till I got basic cable. And this is for all of you that, well, I'm not going to say. Roll the tape.
And why did you park here?
Because that sign says fine for parking.
Let me play that back.
And why did you park here?
Because that sign says fine for parking.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. This guy was right on. It's called the Atlas Society. I got to play this again. You know what he's saying? You know, who knows the oppression of black people more than a white lady? Roll the tape.
I'm being oppressed. I saw it on CNN. A white lady said it. Nobody knows black struggle like white women. And I thought I was having a good life until I got basic cable.
Till I got basic cable. Boy, this is a tough audience. I thought some folks would be laughing at this stuff. I wouldn't want to be stand-up comedian to you guys, but that's all right. Here is, I better not play that. I'll get in trouble for that one. I was going to play this one about the guys on the plane. I'll save that one for another time when it's really late, when the kids have gone to bed. There's no language in it, but I'd get in trouble. Let's see here. I will play you this one. This is a funny memory. I know some of you remember Smokey and the Bandit. After this, we're gonna say goodnight. We're gonna take your questions. This is the late Jackie Gleason and the late Burt Reynolds. They were honoring Burt Reynolds. This was probably back in the late 80s. This is what happened at the event. Roll the tape.
I know you're out there. You some... You embarrassed me. You made a fool out of me and out of my son Junior, that twit. You've been running away. And I've been following you. I'm gonna catch you. And when I catch you, I'm gonna put you behind bars for the rest of your life. And then when you die, I'm gonna put you in a box. And I'm gonna put you behind bars for the rest of your natural death.
Do we not need Buford T. Justice today? I miss Jackie Gleason and Burt. Burt went to FSU, down in my neck of the woods. We need some Buford T. Justices. If Tom Holman needs some help, that's who he needed. All righty. All right. We've been going an hour and a half. Now I'm going to give you 10 minutes. It's 12:30. It's your turn. I got a lot more, but that's all we got time for tonight. And the world will still be messed up when I get back after the revival next week. Bear liked it. Sheila Daspit's up tonight. Carol Smith's up tonight. Good. He said, I'm going to put you behind bars even after you're dead. I love them movies. The first one was the best. They started making the sequels and they got a little stupid. But the first one, I love Smokey and the Bandit. That's the kind of movies I grew up on when I was a kid. And there was nobody better to play Buford T. Justice than Jackie Gleason. The Honeymooners. The Honeymooners. You got anything to say? Say it now, forever hold your peace, because this will be our final news show. Please subscribe to our channel, folks, because there is... hey, I gotta play this for you. One more. Roll the tape.
If I was a flight risk, I wouldn't even be here. I could be in another country this afternoon if I wanted to. I got friends who can create false passports.
Careful, Mr. Henry. Right now, you're only being charged with armed robbery.
I didn't rob nobody.
All right, Kenny, I apologize for my client, Your Honor.
Apologize for your client. Don't apologize for me. I didn't rob no bank, okay? I don't want everyone in here thinking I'm some kind of bank robber, okay? I don't need the money. I'm a drug dealer.
That's enough.
No, it's not enough. See, everybody here is thinking I need to rob a bank to get some money so I can take the ladies out. Well, even if I didn't have no money, I wouldn't need to rob no bank to take the ladies out. I'd kidnap them.
Shut up.
No, you shut up, man. You're the one that got me into this. You got me all stuck up here in court. I could be at home right now printing up fake credit cards. I am not the bank robber.
Mr. Henry, I sentence you to life imprisonment without the possibility for parole.
Well, okay, wait a minute. For bank robbery?
No, for everything else.
For everything else you did.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. I appreciate that too. That was good. That's our justice system. That's our justice system. Alrighty. I love that movie too, Sheila. I love that movie too. Listen, you got a question? Anything going on? Any thoughts? Real quick. You got 10 minutes. Good to see everybody. Got a comment? Anything you want to say? It's your platform tonight. We will see you back here tomorrow night. Everything will be on the face side from here on out. Don't forget, Sunday morning, we start Passover tomorrow night, and Sunday we'll have communion Sunday night. And then Monday night, starting at 8 o'clock, on the McFiles face side, Rumble, and Facebook. And we may play the shows here. We're going to be doing a sort of like Sunday night meeting time. It's going to be like a revival meeting, just like you go to a church service, and it will start at 8. Services will last an hour and a half, maybe 2. But definitely, it'll be a time of I've got messages the Lord's given me for the week, and it'll be a time of renewal and faith, and we'll be praying for the sick, and then Friday, a week from today, is Good Friday, and we will be doing a Good Friday service at noon on Friday, and that service, not sure how long that will last. One year we went 3 hours. Not sure we'll go that long this Friday, but it will be a Good Friday service, because then we'll have a Friday night gospel service at 8, and then Sunday morning, next Sunday is Easter. We will have a sunrise service like we've always done. This will be our 7th straight year having a sunrise service, and our 6th straight. I think we started doing them in 2019, 2020, and that will start at 6 a.m. in the morning to be an hour service max. It'll be a short devotional and a time to commemorate the Lord's resurrection, and then Resurrection Sunday, we've got a beautiful service planned for the 10 o'clock service, and then we won't have a Sunday night service. We want you to spend some time with your family on Resurrection Sunday next week. So we got a full week of faith coming. We will be back here on the new side a week from Monday, which will be the 21st. That'll be Ricky Wilson. She'll be back with us. Judge Sherilyn Allen's coming the 22nd. And we'll have James Akers back with us that week. We'll have Brad, hopefully, can be with us and join us. Leslie Millie, Magdalene Rose, all our regulars that have been faithful. Dr. Stephen Smith's coming back, and really excited to have him. He would have come tonight, but he's out with the family this weekend, and I'm grateful he is. It's always good to talk to my friend. I can't wait to hear his take on RFK and some of the things that's going on. I don't agree with every jot and tittle of Dr. Smith's outlook on the world, but that's fine. That's what makes us friends, because we talk, and he knows how I feel about certain things, and I know how he feels, and we're still friends. And that's what makes the world go round. And but I agree with I know the stuff on the vaccines and the health stuff. I'm all in with what he's saying, because I do believe that he's done a lot of truth to it. Rosemary, how are these judges who are not citizens? I'm not sure that what I said that all I said was that the lady in Massachusetts had a name that I'm not sure if she was, but I'm sure she's got to be a U.S. citizen to be a federal judge. So they can't be. All I said was, with a name like that, I wasn't sure if she was or not. I didn't say for sure I knew, and so forth. Anyway, that's that. Mary Cleveland says, did you see the video of Charlie Kirk repudiating a Satanist wearing a goat head and chanting at him? No, I did not see that one, Mary. If you got that one, send it to me, my friend. I'll play it when we get back. We'll play that one. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that those things are going to get more and more pronounced too, Mary. Interesting. Any thoughts on the April ties to these things? By the way, this is my dear friend, I think, did Juanita do this? Yes, she did. This is a new bird species that's been found in Greenland. Wow. All you Greenland folks, be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for this. How about that? Be on the lookout for that. Carol Smith says, how many can live without China's goods? Carol, I think that I'm glad you brought that up, because the tariffs are out there, and that's been the big media lie. The media is lying about the SAVE Act. They're lying about the tariffs. They're causing people to freak out. And then you've got the cowards out there that, at the least sign of trouble, they don't want to deal with a little short-term pain. And I will say this, I'm not worried personally about the tariffs and the price of goods, because our goods have already been up anyway. I think that, it's just an opinion, I think cooler heads are going to prevail over the next few weeks. I know China's talking a big game. Canada was talking a big game. Mexico was talking a big game. Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, the European Union, Israel even. We have trade deficits, folks, in the hundreds of millions of dollars with some of these nations. We have a $285 million trade deficit with China. In other words, we are losing the trade war with them right now. And, when you say how many people can survive, look, I believe the only people that will really suffer right now, short term, will be the manufacturers that import mass productive products from China. Now, will they pass those costs on to us? I'm sure they will to some degree. But I tend to believe, and I was listening to an economist yesterday, and he believes that we are not going to feel this as much as the Democrats and the left is making us spook us to believe we will. It will remain to be seen. But I will tell you this, what it's doing, and this is the bigger issue to me, it will make the American public and make the American worker become productive again in producing our own things. Look, it's the same principle of the oil thing. We have been so dependent on Arab oil for so many decades, and it's why these wars have been fought. This is why the thing, that's why we've wavered on Israel at times, because the Arabs have basically extorted us and blackmailed us to say, well, if you support Israel in this, we're going to cut your oil off, and heating cost and gasoline. And, I remember the oil embargo of Carter years. And, look, the Arabs have had us over a barrel, so to speak, for decades. And I think the same thing is going on with China. China has had us over a barrel with these goods that they ship into our markets. And I did the chart last week, I believe, week before, how much money and how many jobs it's producing in China compared to what the jobs are being produced over here. It's night and day. We've got a negative deficit of $285 million. So, Carol, when you say how many people, I would just say that let's let this play out. I think by the end of this month, whatever happens, good or bad, we'll start seeing it this summer. I don't think we're going to see it right away. I I think China's talking a tough game. I think eventually they're going to come to the table. Now, I may be wrong about that. I mean, that's just an opinion. But I don't see them winning this. And I don't think they're that dumb. Look, the Chinese are not dumb people. They're very manipulative. They're crooked. They're very evil. They are an enemy of the domestic and the national security of the United States of America. They are domestic enemies within, and they are a national. And I tell you what, I will say this. I'm glad you brought that up. Can I play one video for y'all? I want to play this video right here. This is a expert on China. I want you to listen to him explain the China situation and our debt. This is interesting. I'm glad you brought that question up, friend. Good to see you tonight.
If China owns $800 billion of U.S. debt,
and
which they do, then of course the United States, as the borrower, has to pay interest, which means that you and I and everybody else gets to pay taxes every year that go to Washington, where they don't fund our roads or schools or hospitals. It's money that the United States government collects and sends to Beijing to pay interest on the debt. And the Chinese use to develop the Red Army. Do you understand? All of this has to happen beneath the surface. Because if Americans understood what I just said, they would realize that beneath all the reality is the opposite. That's the reality of the economic of capitalism.
Wow. And what he's basically saying, folks, is our tax dollars are going to pay back the debt. And by the way, guess who was the figure that put us in that debt? None other than Barack Hussein Obama. It was under the Obama years that we basically gave the keys to destroying our country to the Chinese. And he wasn't the first one. There was a lot of Clinton ties. There was Chinese nationalists that were basically indicted under the Janet Reno years, and I was shocked even when she brought those charges during the Al Gore campaign when he was running against Bush. There were people. There is no telling how many millions of dollars were coming into his campaign illegally from the Chinese. Hillary, all of them, but Barack especially. And we're $800 billion in debt, and that's got to be paid back. And what he's saying is that when we pay in our taxes, unfortunately, that a lot of our money is going to pay the Chinese. So something's got to be done. And I'm not an economist. I've got some economist friends. I'm begging them to come on and share their thoughts about this. And they're just shy. They're camera shy. And I said, we'll do it on the phone. You ain't got to show your face. But I'd like to get some economists about this because this is a very important situation. I know my dear buddy, Wayne Jett, he's not doing well physically. He's just not able to do interviews anymore. He would have been a perfect interview for this. I love Wayne Jett. He is my old buddy out in Oklahoma, and he needs your prayers tonight. He's not been doing well physically for many months, and just physically can't do it. But he would have been a great interview about this, and good guy. Thank you, Carol, for that question. It was a good question. It's a good question. Laura says, Canada's gearing up for a federal election. Hopefully Pierre will be the new PM. He's a reasonable leader. Or I believe that. I believe that. Right now Carney is in power, and let's hope that better days are ahead for Canada. Carney has not endeared himself to Israel or the United States these days. And, look, leadership is everything. And for your country's sake, and I would say our country's sake too, I had a funny video. I didn't want to offend nobody from Canada, but there was a guy he was a comedian that had a few thoughts about Canada and why America was important to Canada. I'll save that for other times when feelings ain't so raw. It was funny. But listen, the United States respects Canada. I think most citizens respect Canada, but there's a great deal of the Canadian government, and I'm not talking about the people, but the Canadian government that do not respect the United States. And they definitely don't respect President Trump. They don't like him. So I hope Pierre is going to bring that somewhat down, but, you just never know. And I hope that he's elected. And I do know, and I have told you this privately and publicly, that I think that it was something personal with Trudeau with Trump. I do. I think that was some of the go back and forth there at the end of Trudeau's time. And Ford's comments up in Ontario didn't help. I mean, him threatening the power grid people up at the Canadian border that he gives electricity to. Look, if I'm the president of the United States and a leader like that in another country is saying those things, I'm not happy with it. And I would have responded the same way Trump did. I would have, probably worse. That's why Chris ain't president. Just saying. Chris's mouth would get him in more trouble. It already gets me in a lot of trouble. Bear, I needed the laughs too. I'm glad you liked the. We may have to play Buford T. Pusser again, or Buford T. Justice. Stephen says Satan is mocking the resurrection of our Lord Jesus. Stephen, I believe that is part of why this month has been so volatile. I do. I think that this is a stirring in the spirit realm above us, and there's just something that goes on more intently and more intensely in April, because this is usually the time of the year on the calendar that this is when we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. And I somewhat totally agree with that. I do. I mean, you can't put a finger on your Bible and say we know that to be 100% true, but I do believe it has something to do with it. I do. And we've had some of the worst weather disasters in the month of April in this nation. We've had environmental disasters. The situation with BP at that time BP happened in April of 2010 under Obama. All that oil being poured into the Gulf of Mexico. I know Sheila Daspit remembers it because she's down there on that Gulf Coast. And, that became the worst environmental disaster in the history of the country. These tornado outbreaks were the worst weather outbreaks we've ever had. 3 of them, really. The earthquake of 1906 was the biggest earthquake, killing 3,000 people in San Francisco. I mean, it's a lot of folks back in that day. I mean, that's a lot. And these other bombings and terrorist attacks and school shootings and just the assassinations. And you think about Hitler being born this month and dying this month, and these 2 punk kids. Look, folks, you can pray for their families, but their souls are gone. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but that's just the reality. Their souls are gone. And but them planning that Columbine event on April the 19th. And by the way, this movement we talked about last night, they're planning their event for April the 19th to protest in all 50 states and create basically an anarchist, chaotic, almost insurrectionist type atmosphere in the country against Doge and Trump and the whole apparatus of D.C. So, it stirs. The spirit realm gets stirred up during this time of the year. And I'm going to just throw this out there. I know this ain't a faith show tonight, but I am going to say this. I have gotten a great number of emails and texts from people, dear friends of the network and personal friends of mine, that have told me they have been under great discouragement over the last few weeks and great feelings of just not trying to shake this depression, discouragement, being down. And it happens to the best of us, folks. It happens to me sometimes. I get discouraged. Don't think that this is a little journey I've had that I'm not just sit at a crossroads and say, Lord, I don't know if I need to do this no more. Because I do. I mean, I just do. And I think we've all felt the assault of Satan. And I think that it just ramps up around this time of the year, and it just ramps up around these feast days. And look, tomorrow night at midnight, it will be the beginning of Israel's most important spiritual feast is tomorrow night. Her spiritual year begins tomorrow night. Just like we talked about Wednesday night, it is the beginning of the spiritual life of the believer at the cross, and that's what Passover really represents. It represents in type the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, while it in literal form represents the coming out of Egypt by Israel, which is a picture of the coming out of Egypt by the believer and what Christ did for us at the cross. But Stephen, I think that's well said, and I believe that to be true. Yolanda, I'm not sure. You're saying, I hope the Khalib guy regrets it every single day he wakes, where he came from, for acting like a Mr. Big Stuff here in our country. Adios, bye, and good riddance. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. CJ says, man, we needed that laugh, because some of the things going almost makes you want to cry. Have you heard about this housing complex in Texas that is built up, funded? Yeah, I have, CJ. We had a story on that this week about the Muslims, and they're taking it over. It's a Muslim city, literally. I think they're calling it Muslim City, and Greg Abbott was basically trying to fight it. He's trying to fight because they're trying to establish Sharia law in that city, yes. And so, absolutely. We're staying on top of that. That story's not over. That's something that we're going to have to follow. It's good to see you tonight, friend. Tony says, I'm here in Baltimore. It's a war zone in the city here. Tony, I've heard that. I've been through Baltimore. It's a beautiful city. We got friends up there. And a lot of these cities are war zones. A lot of these cities are war zones. New York City's a war zone. Atlanta, Georgia, my hometown's a war zone. St. Louis, Missouri, Miami. Memphis, Tennessee, the city to my west, about 6 hours, is the most crime-ridden city of the country, they say. They say Memphis, Tennessee is the most dangerous city you could live in right now. And Memphis is the home of Martin Luther King Jr. and Elvis and other personalities and figures of our culture of the past. It's interesting. But it's become the most crime-ridden. And the civil rights movement of this nation started in Memphis and then went through Birmingham and the South. I cannot help but think about Martin Luther King tonight, who was assassinated this month. How unhappy he would be to see what his, and I don't mean this racially, but I have to use the word. I do believe that he would be very disappointed in his race and how they have been succumbed and snookered into believing the lies they believe. As to what's right and what's wrong. He always preached peace. He told people to march against inequality and injustice, and there was a noble part of that message. But the most noblest part of it was he did it with the message that we love people. We love those that are unjust to us, but we stand up for what's right, but we do it in love. And the black community has not done that in love. The black community has turned this into a race-baiting machine. And look, I've listened to some of the folks. If you listen to some of these black comedians and you listen to some of these rappers and you listen to some of these personalities, look, the most vicious racism, like that thing we played with Sonny Holston, claiming that the blacks don't have money to buy a driver's license. Folks, that's as racist as it gets. That is a racist comment. And stereotyping Jews and stereotyping blacks, it's racist. It's racist. Most of that don't come from whites. A lot of that comes from within their own group, their own race. And I would hope that at some point the leadership of the black community will take the advice of their figurehead that they look to a lot and quote a lot. Even his children ignored his message, because his children, except for Coretta Scott King, she has maintained her daddy's feeling about what's right and wrong. She understands. She gets it. But the boy don't. The grandson, Martin Luther King Jr.'s grandson, did not get it. He's very radical left. But anyway, that's just some thoughts. Listen, it's been a great Friday night with you. And we are so well blessed to have you tonight. We hope that you'll have a great weekend. And please see me. Please see me tomorrow night. Pat, do I believe Trump will invoke martial law? I hope he doesn't have to. But right now, my friends, anything is possible. I think it just bears that we need to pray. And we need to stay true and keep speaking up. Listen, I will see you back here on the Face side this weekend. I'm just grateful for you being with us tonight, and we hope we made you laugh, made you think a little bit, encouraged you a little bit. We got so much we didn't cover, and it's like I tell everybody, the world will still be crazy and insane when we get back, and it will be. It will be. I got to play Buford T. Justice one more time for everybody before we leave. Roll the tape. I'll see you tomorrow night on the Gospel Sing. Well, actually, later tonight on the Gospel Sing. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here in the East. And then I'll see you this weekend for Passover services Sunday. All week long, revival services on the Faith Network. Don't miss these, folks. The Lord's got some things to say through the Scriptures, and I think you're going to be blessed. And come be with us in worship and song, prayer, and the Word of God. God bless you. We love you very much tonight. We need Buford T. Justice.
I know you're out there. You some... You embarrassed me. You made a fool out of me and out of my son Junior, that twit. You've been running away. And I've been following you. I'm gonna catch you. And when I catch you, I'm gonna put you behind bars for the rest of your life. And then when you die, I'm gonna put you in a box. And I'm gonna put you behind bars for the rest of your natural death. Now when I leave...
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed out there. Be blessed. We love you. Have a good night. A great weekend. Happy Passover to our Jewish friends. God bless. Good night.